Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about the 2020 Venus and Gemini retrograde transit, part 2 of 2. And first thing I want to get at, as far as this transit goes, I would say, one thing that's maybe imperative is that to avoid like marriage proposals at this time. This could be a time where you're talking about a person that you may propose to may see it as more superficial, given that this is in Gemini. You may misconstrue something as true love for something different on the other person's end. The other person's perception of you may be different than what you want. And remember, you're talking about going in the other direction. So, talking about Venus is connected with love and romance and relationships. The fact that it's retrograde shows it could go in other directions. It could be where it might be a rejection to the proposal. There may be more propensity for that at this time, or there might be some delays on some other person's part. If you felt that somebody was willing, getting ready to tie the knot with you and propose to you, it could be a time where you might encounter some delays on their end, or you might be experiencing some hesitations and apprehensions as well as far as this goes. If you're the one that's has been contemplating, debating, making a proposal to somebody else. Now, another thing, and remember that Gemini energy is not wanting to be pinned down, so it could be a time where you might be experiencing cold feet either on your end or the other person's end, and not wanting to be pinned down to a commitment, at least not at this time. Now, it's also important to look at the house it falls in, as this could impact the delineation interpretation. Now, in my case, it's going to be transiting my first house for majority of the transit. Now, given, this is Gemini energy, could it be possible Gemini love from the early childhood may appear? It could be a Gemini sun, moon, or ascendant person, or simply one that embodies Gemini characteristics. But it could also be about reevaluation, perhaps, of the things that I actually enjoy and value, and they're Gemini related, that being in the first house, I might get personal gratification, personal satisfaction from it. Could be showing some versatile energy, being able to do things that require certain dexterity, maybe some quick-wittedness, being loquacious things. Gemini related things that I might really be able to really strongly value, and it may be going back, reevaluating those things, or maybe going back to those things that I value as well. But the thing is, too, it's also, looking at this, it's also important to look at the aspects it makes to points in one's chart, as of course that'll impact the delineation and interpretation as well. Now, this transit is going to make a conjunction to my moon in Gemini for part, my natal moon in Gemini for part of the transit. Now, this could be, one way this may manifest and pan out, this could be that might be some delayed money or income, perhaps for a very restless and mercurial home-related situation. Remember that the moon can be connected with the home, and also Gemini energy is very restless, of course, and very peripatetic, very mobile, and I think that may be attributed at least partly to why I've had a number of moves, a lot of short journeys in fairly recent time. And I think the thing about it is I do plan on moving again at some point, and it couldn't be an indicator that I might be waiting a little bit longer than I anticipated, or maybe that money comes around that time when it's making that conjunction, because that could indicate money that may be arriving for what I was just describing, but it was delayed, that it's actually, I'm getting it right now. Now, another way that this could also, you look at this could pan out as well. It's also a thing to what we look at. It's also could be about going back to maybe loving that moon in Gemini interpersonality. If I didn't love it before, maybe I could show so a little bit more love to it and value those qualities a little bit better, such as perhaps some versatile qualities, multifaceted qualities, being able to talk about different subjects, assimilating and being able to assimilate information quickly, things of that nature, maybe things connected with dexterity and being witty, things that are really about self-love as far as those qualities goes, the qualities that I may be expressing on a subconscious level. Now, another thing we want to look at too is the fact that the electional aspects it makes during the transit. Now it's going to be squaring Neptune at some point during the transit, and maybe doing it for a good part of the transit. Now, when it squares this Neptune in Pisces during that time, people have to be careful about being more delusional over matters of the heart. If you're trying to go back, or you're trying to rekindle a relationship, say with a Gemini sun, moon, or ascendant person, or one that simply embodies those traits, it could be a time where you're looking at all perhaps their positive attributes, but not looking at the transgressions and the defaults of that person. And it's very important. I mean, Neptune can be about deception as well, and also self-deception. Keep in mind too that this Neptune in Pisces transit, I think a lot of it is connected with this coronavirus that we're facing right now. So what it could indicate to me, the way it may manifest and pan out, if you're going back to a Gemini type of relationship, it can be something that somebody that you may have known in the past. It may be you might experience some conflict due to this coronavirus. Remember that Neptune and Pisces can be about diseases that one can't eradicate or eliminate, and Pisces can be about diseases that are not curable. Neptune, of course, is associated with diseases, so there might be some, due to stipulations or restrictions, the social distancing thing. You understand what I'm saying? There's can be very strong conflict at this time, and it might cause a lot of tension and exasperation. So anyway, now also, I think what's very important to remember is that also wait on Gemini-like purchases, and even purchases in general, because Venus, of course, is associated with money. It can be associated with purchases and spending on items, and it can be a time where we may have to really hesitate a little, or really think hard before buying certain things, especially ones that could be Gemini related. If you're buying a car, I mean, remember that Gemini is associated with local transportation and short journeys. If you're buying a vehicle, it might look very stellar and great on the outside, but internally it might have its knocks and pings. I mean, remember, Gemini energy could be very superficial. It could also be one of those mercurial vehicles, what I would call them, that might work on some instances, and other times may not, like a schizophrenic vehicle. I'm not talking about literal schizophrenia, but I'm talking about vehicles that could be good one day, and then very and really not do what you want them to do the next day. That's not, I mean, that's pretty much what I mean when I talk about Gemini being schizophrenic energy. I'm talking about the contradictory nature of the sign, of course, not the literal schizophrenia. But anyway, and also it could be another example could be is that you may encounter a lot of fast-talking salespeople that may, and another example that may be telling a lot more, really promising a lot more on a vehicle than what it actually has. There could be a greater propensity for that at this time. So anyway, now another thing to remember during this transit is that, remember that this could be about, Venus, you talk about being retrograde, it's more inner directed. It can be about more emphasis and accentuation on self-love. Now, let's say that you have this in the 4th house as an example. You have this transit in your 4th house. This could be a time where you might begin to value and love your Gemini-like qualities you have at the core. It can be your versatility, being multifaceted, being able to hold your own in a conversation, talk about multiple subjects, being very vivacious, quick-witted, witty, being amusing, and even dexterous, perhaps being able to do certain work with your hands. This could be And being able to multitask is another example. So those are some ways that this could manifest and pan out. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying, stay well.